Okay, there we are again, and we're live. Good morning, everybody. So, happy Thursday. Happy hot Thursday, by the way, because it seems like we're in summer automatically right now. My name is Tanya Bosser. I am, I should say, let me back up. Welcome to another edition of At Home with Tanya and Jolene. I think we're on episode 16 right now, and cannot believe that we have got 16 episodes in the last 2 months. So much has happened in the world and to our lives, I think, in the last 2 months. But here we are with another Thursday edition. And like I said, my name is Tanya Blossar. I am a real estate agent. I'm a local real estate agent here in the Northern Virginia area with Coldwell Banker. And I'm a mom of 2. And I am with my lovely co-host, as always, Jolene.
Hello, excuse me, everybody. Yes, it is quite hot. I walked out and I was like, oh my goodness, 94 degrees today.
I know.
So it's appropriate that we're going to be talking about Smokin Willy. So hot. But I'm Jolene Moore. I'm with Main Street Home Loans, so local lender here for providing financing for homes when you want to look at purchasing or refinancing. So thanks so much for being with us, Chris, today.
Yep, it's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so this is Chris Char. He is the owner and creator of Smokin Willy, which is in Purcellville, Virginia. And so Chris and I were chatting before going live. He's actually a longtime resident and business owner, it sounds like, in Loudoun County. You mentioned that it dates back to a deli restaurant that you had in Leesburg, and then you've had Smokin Willy, which is a restaurant and caterer in Purcellville. Did I get all that right?
That's right. Yeah, we started at Deli South in Leesburg about 28 years ago, and the restaurant's only been here about 8, but we're also a big event caterer, and the event catering started about 15 years ago. And as an event caterer, well, we were going to do 120 weddings this year, but that kind of fell apart. So.
Oh my word! How many did you do in the spring?
Well, we only got to do about 3 weddings between January and February, and by the time March came around, maybe we squeezed one more in March, but that was pretty much it. We were hoping to get going again in June, but that's not going to happen. And now July looks like maybe not. So hopefully August we'll do some weddings, but it's pretty tricky right now, and that's a big part of our business. So we're hoping to get it back, but just gotta be patient for now.
So how many weddings did you have scheduled in that time frame that we've had to be quarantined?
I mean, we've got to be getting close to 50 weddings right now that either canceled or postponed.
Wow.
So, and obviously it's very hard for businesses like yourself, but then it's also, you think about the human aspect of them. They had this wedding plan for so long, and then not being able to have it due to this too it's just all around just so crazy.
Yeah, it's been horrible for both sides, whether it's the bride and groom or the caterer itself. And the caterers are still, as we go into the fall, facing an incredible uphill battle, because just to kind of give you some of the math on how it works for a caterer, if a bride originally had 150 people and maybe her wedding was $15,000 and she paid a $5,000 deposit, well, now her wedding might be 50 people. So the bride, she doesn't owe any more money. She's paid all her money. And now the caterer has got a smaller wedding, and the caterer has to come up with all the money for the staff, the food, the rentals, all that stuff. And it's not going to be easy. In some cases, it's just not going to happen. So we'll see where it all goes going into the fall. But things seem to be moving in the right direction. But for caterers, we're still deep in the thick of things. So
do you see, or from what you're talking to people, do you see that they were probably, like you said, going to make it a smaller event potentially, but still have it? Is that kind of what you're hearing?
I mean, for sure, every event's going to be smaller. I mean, at this point, if if a gal had a wedding that was going to be 200 people, if she has 100 people, we'll be lucky. I'd say every wedding is cut in half. I think at this point, most brides want to move forward. They kind of want to get it done and get it over with.
Yeah.
But every wedding's going to be smaller. There's just so many people that will choose not to attend because they don't want to get on an airplane. They don't want to travel. They don't want to be exposed to a larger group or whatever it is. So, again, I'm counting on if I can get half the head count of the original wedding, that's
A win.
not good, but that's what I'm hoping for at least.
Yeah. Well, it's
So,
interesting
Yeah.
because an article just popped up. I didn't get a chance to read it, but the headline was that 23% of Americans are ready for, only 23% of Americans are ready to go back to normal as usual. So I think there's going to be some, like you said, people choosing not to do some of these things, just either they have health issues or, concerns for other family members. So it is going to be, I think, challenging as we move forward to
So,
how to navigate through that.
yeah,
yeah.
without a doubt, it's going to be a different world. I mean, on the
So
supply
Chris,
side of things, I mean, just even getting supplies, whether it's food or paper product or whatever it is, it's definitely there's a log jam forming. So just take it one day at a time.
As I say, did you have a big supply since you were preparing for all these weddings? Where you don't have to be ordering things did you already have it in stock?
Well, yeah, certainly we don't have to order as much, but sometimes, even if the number's zero, it's not available. There's just so much stuff that's
wow.
not available anymore, and you have to, figure out something else how you're gonna do it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
As I told Tanya, in probably most businesses, it's the always something factor. There's always something every day that you have to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true.
Through.
Yeah. Yeah. There is always, I mean, I know, not to make the comparison too much, Chris, but I mean, I think Jolene and I could probably relate. At least there's always something, there's
Yeah.
always somewhat, something that goes awry in a real estate transaction that you really didn't expect to happen, or, something happens in a personal situation that just kind of throws everything that was going on the right path or the trajectory of where you were going, and you're making a hard left or a hard right. That's kind of how this show, quote unquote, came out of the ground, was because we were like, how do we talk to people anymore? We don't even, given what was going on in the world, how do we even do this? So, I mean, I applaud you for everything that, I'm sure that there's so many things that you've had to do to pivot your business and to find another way to continue to, there goes my dog, to continue to kind of march on. How much of your catering business is your business? Is the majority of your business was the catering side?
Oh, absolutely. Between the two restaurants and the catering is half the business, half the sales number. It is what it is. We're fortunate now to still be standing, but the goal every day is to lose less money. There's very few days where you're actually making any money, and if you do make any money on a given day, obviously that just gets pushed to one of the days where you didn't make money. So it is what it is, and we'll, as I said, we'll kind of see where things go. And you just get up every day and fight until there's nothing left. And
For sure.
but that's what restaurant people do.
So you still have both restaurants then, the one in Leesburg and Percival. Oh, and so how have because part of what we've talked about with some other business owners that we've had on here is how they've had to shift, because obviously like you said, the catering is a big part, and there's not a lot you can do about that because the events aren't happening. But what about for the restaurants? Like, how have carryout orders been and things like that for you? Like, what other kind of shifts have you made in your business to kind of accommodate to what's happening?
I mean, certainly, you take advantage of whatever you can get. And if carry out and delivery is what we have to work with, then, we've got to do our best every day to get as many orders out there as we can. And, it's every restaurant's different. I mean, my two restaurants did a lot of carry out business to begin with, so it was kind of an easier transition for us, and we didn't have to make people aware as much that carry out delivery was available through us. But you take some of the bigger restaurants that they were a dine-in only kind of place, and
right,
they'd run 500-600 people through the door on a Friday night. For them to switch to carry out, it's they'll
huge.
I would say they'll never generate enough cash to get back to where they were, but it's extremely difficult. So yeah, like I said, the goal is every day to try and lose as little money as possible. But there's some good days in there still. But yeah, you just have to, I don't know, make people aware that you're open, and hopefully the phone rings.
Have you seen throughout the past 2.5 months, has there been periods of time where like the carry out and takeout was higher than others, or has it been pretty consistent, or how has that kind of flowed for you guys?
I mean, it's been pretty consistent for the most part. I'd say perhaps we're doing a little more carry out now than in the first 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, there's been some days in there that were just, huge for restaurants, whether it was Memorial Day or Mother's Day. I think there was one other day in there that was just, the phone's ringing off the hook. And I don't do online ordering, but, for the restaurants that did online ordering, it was almost a disaster because there's no way to throttle those orders coming in when they're coming in online. And so all of a sudden 50 tickets pop up, and halfway through them, you've now run out of a particular item. Like, let's say you've run out of ribs. So what do? Now you got to go through and call 10 people and say, we don't have ribs. And it's just, it was just a disaster. The online, I don't do the online ordering, but for people that I know that did it on those days, it was a complete disaster. They just, some of them they just turned the internet off. That was the only thing they could do to control.
Oh my
God. And it's funny, as a consumer, I would have never thought of that. I mean, but it makes total sense. Because, on our side of things, we're like, okay, let's place the order. It'll be ready. Like, we don't think about what the rest of the area is doing and what impact that is having.
Yeah. It's, and, I've never been a fan of online ordering for restaurants just because there are so many things to talk to the customer about. Somebody's like, hey, what I really want is when you take your honey mustard and your this, mix it up a little bit for me, and that's what I want. Okay, I got you. You can't do that on the internet in a restaurant. You got to have somebody skilled on the phone that knows the product, knows the process to take that order correctly. But, the world seems to love the internet and online ordering. But, I'm staying old fashioned. You got to call an order.
I appreciate
we have, my daughter graduated from high school. So the other night is kind of probably the similar thing like you're talking about, because we called, a company here or a restaurant here, and I called and ordered, and it was just so sweet because I called and it was actually one of my son's friends that answered. So he took our order, and, he knew me, and it was like this whole nice interaction. And I got off the phone and I remembered, oh yeah, they do have online. I totally forgot, but it was just such a nice interaction to have on the phone with him as opposed to if I'd gone online. So I totally see what you're saying. It is different for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, my husband, it depends on what we're ordering, but I think I would say, 75% of the time if we're ordering some type of food, we're probably going to call and do it, except maybe if it's pizza, because that seems to be fairly straightforward to do that online, But so, I like that. I'm a relationship person, and I like the interaction with people. And so I appreciate a business. It's one of the reasons why, we wanted to talk to small businesses, is because I'm a huge supporter of them.
Yeah.
You know, kind of where I focus a portion of my business in Old Town, it's a lot of small businesses, just like, you know, just like Chris. And I will have to say that I have had Smokin Willy, because if you're a mutual friend, Chris and I connected, and it's everything. It is delicious. It is absolutely delicious. So I do have
Thank
to
you.
ask you, like, so your ribs and stuff, is that something that you're constantly smoking them? Like, how does that process, especially through something like now, how do you manage that?
Well, so when you're in a restaurant versus like just an individual in your backyard with your, you know, green egg or your Weber grill, it's a totally different process. I mean, in a restaurant, yeah, our smokers run 24 hours a day. There's generally always something rotating in and out of them. You know, there's different temperatures, there's different times that things are in for, but the ribs are, you know, they're a 5 hour process at 250 degrees. You know, you get them in at 7 o'clock and you get them out for lunchtime, and you're kind of ready for the rest of the day. But you know, the big thing when you're a restaurant and you have barbecue, you know, whether it's brisket or ribs or pork barbecue or whatever, when the product's done, when the product's finished, whether it took 5 hours to prepare it or whether it took, you know, 12 or 15 hours to prepare it, because some things take that long. Once it's done, how do you now hold that product? So let's say my ribs come out at 11:30 or 12 o'clock on a day like today. Well, you know, a lot of people are not going to be in until 6:30 or 7 tonight to buy them. So how do I keep the quality of that product up for those folks? And, you know, and then there's food safety issues and all kinds of stuff like that. So to me, when you're a restaurant, that and you're a barbecue restaurant, that's the hardest thing to really wrap your arms around and figure out is how are you going to now hold this product and keep the quality level high until folks are ready to order it. But yeah, things are going in and out of the smoker all day long, and we have automatic smokers, so it's
Whoa.
pretty easy. You put the product in, you set the temperature, you put the wood in, and the machine does the rest. Some folks choose to go with stick burners, and a stick burner is something that you are constantly maintaining the fire. And you know, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's you have to be a lot more skilled, and you have to have somebody that's willing to pay attention and stay up all night long babysitting the smoker. You know, and then in Virginia, it's a different world. You know, in Texas, they do a lot of stick burners, but in Texas, the temperature, you know, the summers are hotter and the winters are not that cold. So it's easier to operate an outdoor smoker in Texas. In Virginia, I mean, when we have a string of 15 and 20 degree days that are strung together for a week, I mean, it's almost impossible to get that smoker hot enough to, you know, do what you want it to do. So I don't know, maybe I'm going a little too deep for you there, but
No,
there's a
no. I
lot
mean,
of,
so I have had one. I am such the, you know, I don't know, backyard, I don't know, DIYer, I suppose. But we tried to smoke something one time, and it was a Thanksgiving Day turkey. And I think between my husband and I having to babysit that thing for, you know, 6 or 7 hours, we were like, I'm not so sure we're going to do this again.
yeah.
Because I know exactly. I mean, so I can't even. No. I mean, yeah, no, I completely am kind of dialed into what you're saying, because I think that, especially when you're running a business off of that too, I mean, that is a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
time that you're having to manage. You know, it is one thing to have a steakhouse, right? You know, that is something that you probably prepare on order by and large, or any other kind of restaurant. But when you have something when you're constantly having time in order to prepare your product, that's a lot to manage. Huge.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, and you said put it in at 7 a.m. I mean, that's a long day to
Yeah.
start, you know, the
Yeah.
food so early and then go into the late into the evening for serving as well.
I mean,
Right.
the places in Texas, they're at, somebody's there 24 hours a day at the, you know,
Wow.
some of these places in Texas that, you know, do it a little bit different than we do.
Yeah.
You know, because we have the automatic smokers, I can put something in at 8 o'clock at night and go home, and the machine does the work. Whereas in Texas, they put it in at 8 o'clock at night. And somebody's there all night long tending that fire. Not saying it's bad. I mean, it's great. Lots of, some of the
It's delicious.
places in Texas, they credit themselves because they'll say their fire has not, some of the places, the fire hasn't been extinguished for over 100 years. That fire's been going for 100 years. I mean, it's pretty amazing to think about that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I know.
Yeah.
There.
And like when they move or whatever, they'll take some of the coals and they'll put it in a trash can and they'll bring them over to the new place and they'll start the fire in the new place with the coal. So like seriously, these fires have been burning for forever at some of these places that are, really deep into barbecue.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh. I'd say like barbecue is one of my absolute favorite things in the world. Like I love barbecue. I don't make it very well unless it's pulled chicken barbecue, and at least that. And then I'm not making the sauce from scratch, which I shouldn't admit. But there is everything that I love about barbecue and cornbread and hush puppies and like ribs, like everything I love about barbecue. So I'm going to get super geeky here for a second, because what I've not understood is the whole debate with sauces across the country and what kind of barbecue sauce, whether it's more like vinegar based or it's more tomato paste or tomato based or whatever. Like I don't know. Like, can you enlighten me a little? I don't understand.
Well, did you ask me to enlighten you a little?
Yeah. Like, what is the whole debate on the barbecue sauces? Like, I guess I've only had it on the East Coast, and I guess that's what I like.
Right.
But I know like in Texas, it gets more, there's a ton more heat in it, right? It's a lot hotter. I mean, it's like spicy.
Spicier. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So barbecue in general, we'll just talk about barbecue in general for a moment. Then we'll get to the sauces. But so barbecue in general is kind of almost like a competitive sport. It's kind of like you're rooting for your team. Which barbecue place do you like? That's my place, and they make the best barbecue, and that's who you love. And the other place is kind of like, we got to beat them. So that's to me, that's, I don't know. I don't want to say it's a little weird, but that's kind of one of the barbecue mindsets with a lot of people. So then that kind of brings us to the sauce, and people's opinions and I don't know how I'm not sure what the word is I'm looking for here, but they're just passionate about this sauce. I like a vinegar based sauce, nothing else will do. So that's kind of where the sauce thing comes from. It kind of stems right off of barbecue of like, well, this guy smokes his meat this way for this long and that cut of beef or whatever it is, and he's the best. And so the sauces kind of come out of that. But to me, it's certainly it's a matter of personal opinion, whatever you like. And there are certain sauces that go better with different things. I mean, to me, anything like a pulled pork, vinegar's always, in my opinion, the way to go, because pulled pork can be pretty fatty, and you get that vinegar mixed in with the pork, and it cuts that fat a little bit. And I think it pairs well. Beef, I like a little thicker, sweeter sauce. As far as how much heat, that's just up to you. I used to be a brave soldier and eat real hot, spicy foods, but not as much anymore, So, but
no, I can't do that. No, I like the vinegar though, and it's funny. I'm like writing stuff down because now I know. Because I mean, I know what I like, but I just don't. I've never known like the right pairing, if you will. Like and the whole idea with pork with something that's more vinegar based and beef that's a little bit, more tomato based.
Well, tomato based, sweeter sauces.
Okay.
Things like that, but and then there's mustard based sauces and stuff like that. I think generally as a rule of thumb, you got to go with an independent barbecue place, somebody that has, 1, 2, 3, or 4 stores. Most of the bigger chains are kind of gone at this point, or going at this point, and it's just because, everything we've talked about in barbecue, it's not, unless you're passionate about it, unless you're really keeping an eye on what you're doing, you can't just reproduce 250 barbecue restaurants across the country and hope that they'll all do well, because you'll never hire the right staff that has that level of concern and care for what you're doing, as to what's necessary to put out a good product. So yeah, the national chains and stuff like that, that's a whole nother thing. They're just about trying to make money, not necessarily putting out good barbecue. Although they might not agree with me, but.
So do you have a wide selection of sauces at your restaurant then?
No, I just do 3 sauces.
Okay.
I actually don't really bill myself as much as a barbecue restaurant. I think the name says barbecue, but I mean, we do everything from sandwiches and burgers and appetizers and salads and steaks, and we have got Tex-Mex dishes like different tacos and carne asada and things like that. And the reason is this, I think, again, barbecue is sort of a regional thing to some degree. I mean, when you're in Texas or you're in North Carolina or, maybe parts of Tennessee, barbecue is just like more of an understood way of life or something like that. But in Northern Virginia, barbecue is, some people understand it and get it and appreciate it, and a lot of people don't. So it's better, in my opinion, I like being just a restaurant in general where I can appeal to a lot more people.
More diverse.
What's that?
More diverse then?
Yeah, that's what I like being. I mean, there's plenty of barbecue places that are plenty successful, don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to be more of a restaurant and appeal to a few more people. And, some people would tell me I'm doing it wrong. Some people would tell me I'm doing a great job. Who knows? Again, it gets into that mentality of like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Oh my word.
Versus, that guy's the best.
I think if you've been running restaurants and small businesses for 30 plus years, I think you figured it out, honestly.
I don't know. I mean, I tell you what, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, are you successful? My answer would have been no. And, I'd been doing it for 24 years at that point. I'd say, no, I don't feel like I'm a successful business operator. It's still too much of a struggle, day to day with the cash flow and things like that. It's only in the last few years that I would say, yes, I'm a successful restaurant person and I've kind of figured it out. Restaurants are just, I mean, lots of businesses are tough. Don't get me wrong, but restaurants are just, they are an unbelievably tough animal. I kind of view it as like you're at this control panel and there's 60 dials in front of you and each dial's got a different setting. And if you don't get every single dial just right, forget it. People just aren't coming in. And I'm not saying I've even got every dial set right. Every day I'm still trying to fine tune everything a little bit more, but it's it's tricky.
My sister's husband owns a restaurant down in Florida, and he has one in North Carolina and Florida, and it's the same thing, and it's just so much work. I mean, it's a lot of hours that you guys put in. So I applaud you for doing it as long as you have and continuing to try and figure out those dials. So I did have one question for you, just because as we're kind of starting to, we've gotten phase 1, and then we thought we were going to go to phase 2 tomorrow, but we're not. But do you have outdoor seating? Like, are you able to seat people at this point? Or what's that look like for you? Okay.
A little bit. We had some outdoor seating, and obviously with social distancing, that's the original outdoor seating we had is not too much at this point. Mm-hmm. But we're fortunate because, like I said, we are a caterer and we're actually a rental company too. So we own all of our tables, chairs, tents, all this stuff. So it was kind of a no-brainer for us to put up a tent in the parking lot and, get a few more tables and chairs in there. So, we still only have, 16 tables or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's better than nothing. Right. But, for some of the restaurants that, actually had to pay to have these tents put up and things like that, it's debatable whether, they're going to recover that money or not. But some restaurants, for the most part, we're doing anything just to Whether you make money with it or not, you're kind of just doing anything because you want to be on people's radar screen and get them thinking about you.
Right, keep them coming. Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome, though. I mean, kind of like you're talking about your business and how it shifted. I mean, that's amazing that you did have the tents and everything that could accommodate this,
Yeah.
and that you had a parking lot that could do that. Like Tanya and I were talking about that in Old Town. She was saying how they closed off part of King Street to allow the restaurants to come into the street to give them outdoor seating, but not
to get them enough social distancing.
I am in Fair Lakes. In the Fair Lakes Shopping Center, we went out Saturday night, I think it was, and there's a lot of restaurants in that shopping center, and only one was open that had outdoor seating. So it's, and outdoor seating, the rest were doing carryout still, but so it's great that you have the space at least to accommodate
I'm
that.
lucky. And in a way, I think the law is totally unfair. It's almost like they're picking and choosing who's going to get to survive and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't like that. In being in business, I guess the one thing I can't stand is when the playing field's not level for everybody, because that's not fair. Because when the playing field's level, then it's just about the management, the operators, the owners themselves. How early are you going to get out of bed, and how hard are you going to just kill yourself to make it work and figure it out? And that should be what it's all about. But when the playing field's not level, as we're talking about right now, where outdoor seating is allowed but indoor seating isn't.
Right.
I mean, I'm fortunate, I'm lucky, I'm happy, but at the same time, if I couldn't do outdoor seating, I'd be one of those restaurants that was just not it's just not fair anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I totally see your point. It's I mean, because I felt the same thing looking at everybody. I was like, oh, I just felt for them, that they didn't have the opportunity to have that because they didn't have outdoor seating or enough tables to justify, opening that seating area. So, well, hopefully we're going to keep progressing and we're going to
moving forward.
What does phase 2 mean for restaurants? Like, what does that look like for you guys when we do get to that point?
Oh, let me get my crystal ball out here.
I mean, does it allow indoor seating? Does it allow indoor seating at that point, like 50% occupancy? Or
I'm told that indoor seating is going to be allowed at 50% capacity, but I think what you have to remember is kind of one of the things Tanya said, I believe in the beginning, that 23% of people say they're ready to get started, but 75% of the people aren't. So it'll be a new dynamic where somebody walks in the front door of the restaurant, they see too many people, and they say, I'm not going to eat here. There's too many people here. I'm going to go somewhere else. So, and again, these bigger restaurants, like I said, that can move, 500 people through the dining room on a Friday night. What are they going to do? Now they can only move 150 or 200 through on a Friday night. And they're fighting the fact that people are like, the place is too full. I don't want to be there. What does phase 2 bring? Again, I think it's just maybe there's a little bit of hope there, but I think it's all about the individual restaurant themselves need to stay on top of the situation as much as possible and look at everything on a daily basis and what's working and what's not. And that's really what phase 2 means, is like, okay, now that we've shifted a little bit, what do I have to change to make people happy? Hopefully it does mean a little bit more money in the cash register. And certainly it will for some businesses, but it's all
Well, I mean, I appreciate you coming on today because it's given us, I think, a different perspective too, like a different an understanding of how this all works. Because obviously we see it from our side, but not
consumer.
From as a business owner, a restaurant owner. So I appreciate you letting us know. And it's something I think hopefully we can all keep in mind. That going in and being more, I guess, understanding.
most people are understanding, but there's still those that they just want to beat you over the head because they saw somebody in the kitchen that didn't have a mask on.
Right.
And everybody's entitled to what they want to think, but yeah, it's
They are, but
it's tough.
it's
Most
tough.
people are understanding, but there are still some that they're inconvenienced and they're not happy about that. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. I could really talk your ear off about my opinions and beliefs, but
Oh, but you know what? We all have them. I was just thinking as you were talking, Chris, really quickly, that I think, I can somewhat relate is, I mean, you're working, especially in your industry, you are working twice as hard as probably what you have been the past, pre-COVID. And yet financially you're getting maybe half of what you were making in terms of money wise. So I can only imagine. I appreciate you and all of the other restaurant owners that are figuring it out, like just figuring out how to make this still work. Because I think, we all are social beings. We are, as humans, we just want to be out and about. That's just kind of what's in our nature. And so, I'm just praying that folks like you are still out there, that we can go and be social with each other and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think, as I said a few minutes ago, we're still really deep into this, and it'll be, we've got at least 6 months, maybe 12 months to kind of see how things start to really shake out. It's, in the restaurant business in general, you're always on the edge. I mean, I joke, one of the long-time jokes I always say is, anybody that owns a restaurant and tells you they're making money is probably lying. So, restaurants they do not have reserve cash in the bank. So it's pretty tough. And then that's, even the National Restaurant Association, when this all started coming out, there was some podcasts or whatever I was watching, and they pretty much confirmed it. They said almost every restaurant in America, whether it's a big chain or a small independent, is probably, only has about a 3-week supply of cash on hand. And it is what it is. I don't know. I can tell you it's the truth.
Were you able to apply for the small business loan?
We were. And,
without
those loans, either my house you would have been refinancing my house. I would have been pulling all the equity out of my house.
Your house. Oh, we don't want you to do that.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to get that.
We were fortunate to get some loans, and it gave us some runway and some more breathing room, which is good because, for just our staff in general, our staff, especially the first 4 or 5 weeks, was just on pins and needles of like, are we even going to open tomorrow? Is the store going to open tomorrow? Am I going to have a paycheck on Friday? And that was real. I mean, my people ask me on a daily basis, are we going to open tomorrow? Are we going to open tomorrow? Yes, we're going to open. We're going to open. So those loans, made it a much more viable reality that yes, we're going to continue to open for the next few months at least. Without those loans, I don't know. It could be bad. Because my wife is not happy about taking money out of the house.
I'm sure. Well, I am, I'm glad to hear that the loans actually worked, because we were hearing so many things throughout the news where, small businesses like yourself weren't able to get a hold of the money, especially the first round of them, because it just, it dried up really quickly, and a whole other, set of issues and stuff. But I am super glad to hear that you were able to. And that's a good question, Jolene, too. I was thinking the same thing.
I mean, I think, in a way, because I was a restaurant, I was probably pushed towards the front of the line to get money. We were clobbered over the head pretty hard in the beginning. which turned out to be a good thing because now I was pushed to the front of the line to get a loan. But again, we talk about, a level playing field. I mean, there's so many businesses that were clobbered over the head, and the news media just didn't highlight those businesses. I mean, we talked about, the events, and as a caterer, yeah, we're clobbered over to the head. But what about all the rental companies that rented all those plates and flatware, chinas, glassware? Everything's sitting in their warehouse. Those guys they're getting killed even more than the restaurants. I don't know if they got loans or not, or how easy it was for them to get loans. But again, I think there's just so many businesses out there that they just got clobbered. And anyway.
Oh, yeah, and it's just listening to you. It's like just all these businesses you did, again, as a consumer, you don't think about. It's like not necessarily, like you're saying, all these weddings that didn't happen.
Right.
It's not just the couple that was getting married. It's all the other businesses that were involved that
absolutely
and put out money for those events in anticipation, and then now not happening.
Oh yeah.
So I hope they were all able to apply for those loans, and I do hope that we start to, like you mentioned a minute ago, there's hope, and I hope that we can, try to start to come out of this, and these businesses can kind of get back to doing what they need to.
Yes.
I hope so. I mean, it's certainly the pandemic is real, and I don't want to minimize that in any way, but I don't know. I mean, we gotta pick up and go on at some point.
Yeah,
that's right.
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. You can clip this part out if you want, but I feel like as Americans, we do need to toughen up. I mean, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, if you wanted a better life, you packed up your family in a covered wagon and you went across the country, and it took 2 months to get there. You didn't know where there was any food. You didn't know if you were going to die along the way. And these people were tough and they persevered. Now, if you want to move across the country, you dial up U-Haul, you get on the internet, you get a job, you get a place to live, and 2 days later you're there. It's like we forget where we came from. We forget what a hard life really, really looked like. And anyway, I guess I'll stop there.
No, I you know what? There's a really strong point in there about resilience, and you're right. We could probably be on this conversation for a long time. See, Chris, I told you, like 30 plus minutes goes by so fast. It's amazing how quickly all this time goes by when we're doing this. But I think part of this is that resilience is
absolutely
kind of what we're building up right now, and I think generationally, hopefully that helps us in the long run. I'm tracking with you on that for sure. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. I know that you got.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I know you've got so many things that you're trying to manage throughout your day. So we super really appreciate you doing this with us today.
Well, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed it, ladies. You're my first whatever this is ever.
Whatever this is.
Well, we'll come out and support you soon, because I'd love to come to your restaurant. So when we can, the two of us will come out.
Well, Fair Lakes area, that was my old stomping grounds. When I grew up, I was like 5 minutes away from Fair Oaks Mall.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
It's changed a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, as Purcellville has too. I mean, I remember Purcellville back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy how much it's built up now into this kind of thriving, community, I should say. Not that it wasn't thriving before, but it's certainly bigger now, I should say.
Well, that's the way the world always works,
Yeah,
for sure.
We all need to buy some land in Berryville and sit on it for 20 years.
You know what? And not to get off onto a tangent, but I've had very many conversations with people nowadays. I think that there is a migration real estate wise that we're going to see over the next couple of years of people doing just that.
I know.
Exactly that. So,
well, I gotta keep earning my money the old fashioned way. I've got to earn it. No free lunches for me.
But you have real estate, like you mentioned, so that's earning you some equity there too. So that's good.
That's right.
That's good.
All right,
Chris.
thank
well,
you.
again,
All right.
thank
Good
you
luck.
ladies.
again.
Okay,
Have
thanks.
a great day.
Okay.